Hi guys, I'm Melissa Dunn. I'm the head of marketing at Suzy. For those of you guys who don't know who Suzy is, we are an end-to-end consumer insights platform. We integrate qual, quant, and we have a proprietary audience. We work with a bunch of enterprise brands in the audience, and I'm really excited to talk to Andy today. We're gonna talk about engaging with consumers and what a better brand to engage with consumers than the NFL. So Andy, I thought we could start with you just giving us some background on where you've been and what your role is at the NFL.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So first of all, it's a real honor to be here. Always love being with Brand Innovators and love that Melissa and I get this chance to talk to you all. First, I have not taken the typical path. It feels like every boy who's going through college right now wants to be in sports marketing or sports management. I feel like every friend I have is like, hey, my cousin's son is interested. Would you talk to them? And I didn't take that path. So I actually spent 25 years in the travel industry. And you're like, travel to sports, how does that make any sense? I started my career with the Walt Disney Company and the travel side. I then spent a few years at Expedia and then went to Marriott International and helped grow that business from what was like 9 brands when I started to now I think they have 36 brands. And then post-COVID, we were rebuilding. I mean, obviously, everyone knows that travel hit very hard. COVID hit travel very hard. And so after that, I started to think about, well, what else could I do that after we had rebuilt the company, I was like, how do I sort of pivot? What else do I want to do? And what I was starting to look at is where are there industries that needed to know what travel already knew? And that was multi-channel. That was digital identity at the core. That was this notion of orchestration before it was a buzzword. That was personalization at scale. That was product. That was loyalty and affinity. And I circled a bunch of industries, and this is where the whole thing breaks down, by the way. And then a recruiter called and said, "Hey, we got this cool gig at the NFL." And I was like, "That's amazing." I'm a huge football fan. I've been a fan for life. But then when I looked at the role, it actually checked the box on everything that I just framed.
Wow, that's surprising.
And so shocking. And it was really a blessing to be able to pivot my career and then be given the reins to build a bunch of stuff that we're going to talk about that we've delivered with our fans. And so it's been a lot of fun. We have an incredible canvas that we get to play with. We are one of the few brands out there that can really say we have this incredible breadth and depth at the same time, not just here in North America, but around the world now. And so I often get asked, what's it like to work at the NFL? So rather than me keep talking, what I thought I'd do is cue up a sizzle. If I don't know who I'm speaking to in the back, if you can cue up a sizzle, there's one called Marketing Sizzle Reel. And let's just play that it's a lot of fun.
So with that, Andy, you've transformed and innovated, I think, a lot of different companies. Can you talk about just how you think about consumer engagement at the NFL? I mean, there is, at the league level, there's team levels, it's very multifaceted. Will you just talk about how do you guys approach it, and how
Sure.
do you personally think about the fan engagement within the framework of the business?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the right video, so we'll show this in a minute. I'll answer this question, then I'll segue into that. Look, the NFL, you can look at it and say that is the world's greatest sport. Or you can look at the business and see a franchised environment with a platform that is a football operations platform, a platform that is a sponsorship platform for partners, a platform that is a fan engagement platform that brings identity and data across millions of fans together, but engages them in digital and physical environments. And you can also see that as this relationship of a portfolio brand and sub-brands all working together. That's what I saw when I started the league. And so what we said is, if you put the fan at the center of things, and I know that's cliche, but we really do it, how does that change the way that you engage with your fans? First and foremost, what we recognize, and we characterize this all under this marketing strategy that we call the helmets off strategy. It was one, our players wear helmets. Not a shocking revelation by any means, but what it really means is our fans don't know who our players are, or didn't know who our players are. And we looked around at other leagues, There's one with a round orange ball that has much fewer players on the court, and it was a player-led model. And we said, So first, take the helmets off. So you will never see in our advertising, unless it is advertising for the game specifically, our players wearing helmets. The other thing is, how can you embrace what our players care about as a platform or set of platforms that our fans also care about? So cause marketing, social justice really, really matter to not just our players, but our fans. And by the way, that's not a NFL specific thing. How many of you in the audience have brands that your customers say, if you align with my likes and dislikes, my values, I will buy more? Well, we're not immune to that either. And then the other is, our players have passion points. Fashion, music, etc. Gaming is another one. And so we said, how do we lean into that? How do we build relationships with the influencers in that space? How do we build relationships with partners in that space that really enable our players to showcase who they are off the field and then connect more deeply with our fans through that? And when you do that, you build out this entire library of content. It's authentic, and you develop it in a way that you can activate it across all of your channels. And those channels are going to span broadcast television to an email, to a push message, to SMS, to something that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to push you when you walk into their stadium, to the Miami Dolphins delivering something after you've given the game. That's the ecosystem that we play with. And so what I want you to, now when I'm going to show you the sizzle reel, what I want you to notice as you watch this are one, the helmets off strategy at play through the creative, the multi-channel nature of it, but across it all, amazing storytelling that allows us to deliver this impact with our fans. Let's cue this one up now.
So welcome to the table read for the 104th season of the NFL.
10th week, all students. In this game, there's a position for everybody.
All eyes on me. And you looking at me? Yeah.
Boys, get in. You can get your favorite Chiefs player's jersey, too.
All eyes on me.
How's it feel that Taylor Swift has finally put you on the map?
What you looking at me?
Tuesday.
You like what you see? I know you like what you see.
Let me toss.
Yeah, you like what you see.
Let's go.
All eyes on me.
One shot.
You know you're still gonna get booed, right? Standing on business.
Okay, everybody, we're gonna need something for the international games.
Hello, mate. In the UK, baby. Duval. Bring it, little man.
Oh no! Quincy's in trouble!
I know that look. I know that dream. Doesn't have to be a dream anymore.
မိဘကြမှာ skin ဆန်ရှော် dedicated နေတယ် and the hard work and dedication constantly motivates me.
For those that came together so this kid could achieve his dream.
Christian Gonzalez.
And the nation that's always in my heart.
You wanted to be an NFL player, and here we are.
This year's recipient of the Pat Tillman Award for Service, the training staff of the Buffalo Bills.
I feel like a failure every day.
No one wants to be my friend.
These are the stories of kids struggling with mental health.
So the NFL is working to give them the tools to create healthier relationships.
This is my cause.
This is my cause.
And these are my cliques.
Wait for it. And
What's up? What you looking at? Huh?
speaking of Super Bowl, let's skip to the last page.
What you looking at? Huh?
That's on you, bro. Besides,
What you looking at?
I'm not even real.
I know you like what you see. I know you like what you see. Yeah, you like what you see. All eyes on me.
This game right here is our game.
Just think of the memes.
Hopefully you've seen a lot of that work, but if you haven't, what you saw there is an emotional resonance that prior to our helmets off strategy, the NFL was not engaged in at all. And that has not only positioned us in a much better way as a brand for long-term health, but what we found is it has engaged a new set of fans that were not really interested in the gladiator side of the players, but are interested in finding out what they believe and what they care about as human beings. And through that, they actually start watching the sport. And so it's a different on-ramp, as we say, into fandom.
I love that. I think there's such a personal connection that you start to make with these players. And obviously, I think we've always seen it in the draft and the stories that sort of lead up to where these guys came from and the story of how they got there. But even just seeing how they walk onto the field now, it's like their personal style really comes to life. And, I think young fans, old fans are be able to connect with these players in a way that obviously their talent on the field is so incredible, but there's also these personal stories that the fans identify with. So I guess with that, Andy, I also recognize, and I think, everyone, Taylor Swift has made a huge impact on the sport, but I think just even in general, the sport has become so much more sort of mainstream, and you guys are bringing in all different types of fans now, and it feels very family oriented. And there's the diehard fan still exists, but now you have all these sort of people at different levels of fandom. So how do you guys think about connecting with people that are maybe just starting to get into the sport, and then you have the people that are season ticket holders that are going to every game? How do you guys think about engaging on that level of fandom in different ways, whether it be through channels or messaging? How do you sort of take that sort of next step with evolving fandom?
Yeah, it's a great question. To us, first, it started with understanding how fans, new and old, avid and casual, want to engage in the sport, and what role the sport, and more specifically the NFL beyond the sport, plays in their lives. And is it a 3-hour window on a Sunday, or is it every game? And so what we did was and actually, if you can queue up the PowerPoints, there's a fan journey slide I'd like to show. We created a fan journey. This is it. It's far more detailed than this, but this is the abstract version. What we did was we analyzed all the behavioral data that we had on our fans, and we have a lot. And then we actually put qual on top of it. Okay. And I think it was 16,000 fans. And what we found was there is a cycle that our fans go through every year. We don't want to look at the game cycle. We don't look at game day. Our teams do that. Like, what's it look like? What's the journey from driveway to driveway, as they call it? We wanted to look at the whole year. And where are those inflection points? This is where coming from outside of sports really helped.
Yeah.
In travel, we did a lot of this. Where are those moments that matter, either good or bad, that can create or destroy fandom? And we mapped this out, and you can see there's this anticipation window, which is start the countdown. And then you actually get into the season, which is enjoy the games. And then there's an end, which is remember and reflect. All of our fans go through this. This is a year-round thing. Then they restart. Some fans, if they're fans of specific teams, they may start remembering and reflecting earlier in the season than others. If their team has only won 3 games, as an example, they probably start reflecting and looking towards the next year versus others. And you can see that it's actually a level stage, and then the nodes that they go through, and there's a cycle that happens around game day itself. What we found are every fan goes through this. And
just at different levels.
Different levels of intensity. So we striped our segmentation model against this, and we started to say, here's the moments that matter. Here's the moments that are being under or overserved. And a perfect example. Well, we're going to talk in a few minutes about the proliferation of our partnerships with streaming platforms. But what we found here was the great irony is our fans were telling us the game is, and I'm sure I'm going to see nodding at this, while the game is more accessible, it's actually harder to know where the game's being played and how do you watch it. So we use this, and if you can jump to the ways to watch slide, we use this to build a product which is a recommender around how you watch our games. And you're like, well, why do you need that? Well, you actually do, because
you need it.
Because, right, one,
it's impossible.
What game you see is based off of where you're standing when the game is on. physically located, not where you live, where you're physically located, what subscription services you have now, what's an in-market versus out-of-market game. And it's not just about watching. As SiriusXM was up here, they're a huge partner of ours to listen through audio of all of our games. And so this now, it's like a velvet rope strategy, which it not only asks you where you'll be, but then it shows you all the games. And it says, if you want to watch, I'll make this up, the Eagles-Bills game, and you're going to be in Cincinnati, the only way you'll be able to watch that out-of-market game is by subscribing to NFL Sunday Ticket. Guess what? Here's a button to buy it right here. And so it's another way in. And I'll tell you what I found through this. Not only do we solve for a pain point, and for the media buyers in the room or the marketers that are looking at efficiency in the room, this was actually a more efficient path to get someone into subscribing to some of our subscription services than putting the subscription service in front of them.
This is so smart. I mean, if you think about the simplicity of watching years ago where it was like you knew on Thursday nights CBS all the time, right? Now it's like there are so many different places to watch. I'm going to, I think, jump because this is a natural moment to talk about streaming. And, you know, we ran a survey just this week to understand, you know, on Suzy, where are people watching NFL games? Only 36% are watching it. They're streaming it. But obviously, I'm sure everyone knows and probably was watching the NFL games on Christmas Day were on Netflix for the first time. It was a record number of viewers, 65 million for Christmas Day across the two games. It was obviously a huge move for Netflix to, you know, partner with you guys. And it just shows how everyone is trying to get into the streaming game. But I guess, you know, with that, how do you think about your strategy beyond just obviously this enables and helps fans to know where to watch it? But if you think about even the way that fandom and the audience is connecting differently, now that streaming is a part of this, how do you guys think about your strategy knowing that there's just so many different places to watch and therefore, you know, new and different eyeballs to get because of sort of the form factor of the way they're watching?
Yeah. One, help them find it.
Yep.
But two, you're absolutely right. I mean, if we sort of rewind 2 years ago, our games weren't on Thursday night package on Amazon, 2 Christmas games on Netflix, NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. We are working, and in addition to that, all of the streaming platforms for our traditional linear partners, whether it's ESPN, Paramount Plus, Peacock. Hopefully I didn't leave any partners. If I did, I very much apologize. So that has shifted in 2 seasons. It's incredibly fast.
It's just 2?
Just 2 seasons.
Wow.
And so it's incredibly fast. And what's really interesting in it is not just follow look, we want our games to be as accessible as possible to our fans. Our goal is to get our fans to spend as much time, energy, money, passion with the NFL as possible. So that means we have to be on the platforms where they congregate or where they consume content en masse. What's really interesting as a business is these platforms are fully logged in an identifiable state. So if we can create experiences that our fans are opting in to connect their IDs. By the way, this is a model you see with loyalty platforms as an example. You see, how do I do co-earning between a hotel company and an airline, or a hotel company and a large beverage company in the Pacific Northwest? Once you connect those IDs, now you can create experiences that cross them. And how can we then better serve our fans? What I know about a fan could actually inform what their viewing experience might be on Netflix or might be on Amazon, not just for advertising purposes, but actually to make a better fan experience as well. That's our role at the NFL. Our role is to create better experiences for football fans across the platforms through which they engage.
Well, and I feel like if the fan is at the center and you are creating omni-channel strategies that ultimately matter most as far as how to connect with them, then they are going to be, you know, surprised, delighted, happy in that. So with, I think, omni-channel marketing is quite, you know, challenging, but also personalization now. I feel like, you know, obviously, we've talked ad nauseum about AI, and that helps you get there. But how do you guys think about your omni-channel strategy, even within that framework? Because it is so complicated. There's so many places to be consuming content and watching things and finding them. How do you guys across your ecosystem really think about the various strategies that you put forth?
Well, I think at the core it starts with, and this is any personalization effort, omni-channel and whatnot, it's be very clear on what you're trying to accomplish. Be very clear on your organizational goals. Most what I found in my experience is that most transformations or digital transformations or personalization or any of these large sort of change efforts fail for not because of the technology, not usually because of the data, but rather for two other reasons. One, the organizational goals aren't aligned. Every organization is matrixed now. Are you aligned on how you're actually trying, what you're trying to do, or you don't have content? To content at scale that delivers any meaningful results. So we hit on both of those. One, our organizational goals are actually pretty simple. I make sure on my team we have a plan on a page, as I call it. It is very, very clear on what we're trying to do. I won't tell you because that's our strategy, but it's very, very clear. The KPIs are right under the goals. Everybody, whether they physically pin it up or they have it on their desktop or whatnot, know exactly how we get measured and how we drive value for our fans and for the company. The second, in terms of content, we need a lot more of it. We have an incredible ecosystem of creating content through our local content correspondents. We call them LCCs. We have an army of 100 plus LCCs that are at games, riding the hip of players, creating packages that are pumped out through our social platforms. To give you a sense for our scale, we publish 1,500 pieces of content a week. On average, I saw a few heads go, seriously? 1,500 pieces of content a week. We have over 2 billion followers across our social ecosystem now. And we increasingly use our LCCs to create that content. And while it's originally created for social, we're now starting to use it in other channels as well. And then AI, if I put my AI plug in, yeah, right. It feels like, shocked that we got through 28 minutes and we're just getting to AI. We are using AI to version our content at scale as we increasingly activate with fans around the globe. So we're doing experimentation right now with a few partners that we're bringing together through our Technology Innovation Hub, which is a partnership through our IT organization. And what we're doing is we are using AI to version that creative. So imagine if you can type or voice a prompt and say, I need tune-in assets, tune-in being the games, and advertising tuning of the games. For every game this weekend, across these 15 markets in these 12 languages, I'd like it personalized based off of what player's chosen based off the most popular player in that country. So it might be a Canadian player in Canada versus the American player here versus a German player somewhere else versus Patrick Mahomes in France, just picking that as an example. Because it's a tune-in ad, each of those ads is smart enough to know that the game is airing on ESPN here versus Sky versus another network somewhere else in the world. We now have and I want it for these 12 channels of engagement. And we have a library of assets popped into our inbox within minutes. Imagine the productivity savings there. Now, we're still in pilot phase of that, but that's a great example of how we need more content, but also how we can use AI to get us to scale in some really, really efficient ways.
That's amazing. Have you guys built this stuff in-house? Like, what advice would you give to marketers that are trying to scale in this way? Are you guys buying, building, a combination?
Yeah, luckily we are a brand that a lot of partners want to engage with and experiment with, and so we what we try and do is one, we ask ourselves, what are we really good at, and if it's not, and what are we trying to do, and if those don't match, then we go find a partner. And sometimes that's a partner that we are privately engaging with, or sometimes it's a partner that we want to tell the world about what we've done with them. And so what our Innovation Hub enables us to do is bring different partners across different verticals together and really churn out some really cool stuff.
That's awesome. So I guess walking into 2025, Andy, what advice would you give to the marketers in the room on consumer engagement. And obviously the NFL is sort of, at one of the top, I think, as far as fans that just have such an incredible affinity for the brand. Like, how would you think about, the year ahead, and what kind of advice would you give to people as they're thinking about evolving or really trying to increase fandom for their brands?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of things we could probably talk about. Be authentic and all the, and yes, do all of that. I'm actually gonna just quote one of our partners in Nike and just go do it. Just do it. Like, you're gonna fail. You're gonna mess up. It's not gonna work the first time. You're not gonna strike gold immediately, despite every vendor saying put our tags on your site and you'll be golden in 2 weeks and all the stuff that comes with that. Just try, go do it. You're gonna fail. You're gonna stub your toe, but what's gonna come from that will be real success. So what I just framed for you, the stuff we did up here, we have a wall of shame on things. We have things that didn't work. We have experiments that didn't pencil out. But when you strike that gold, it's worth it. So it feels like we're talking about how exciting AI is and what it can do, and just go try it. Just go do it. Figure something out and go do it. But make sure, and this goes back to my earlier point, make sure it's aligned to how you make money or how you drive success for your organization, because that's ultimately what the C-suite's going to care about.
Yeah, and I think the failures ultimately end up being places you can find growth and you can learn from, and
100%.
Sometimes you have to fail in order to be able to really understand what you can win in.
Yeah, I remember a stat. I used to, earlier in my career, when I was in product, I did a lot of multivariate testing. And the stat then was like 7 out of 8 tests fail. Like, that's not a great batting average, if I can use a baseball analogy. I mean, I don't even know what that math is, but it's not good. But you got to have thick skin. But when you strike that one, I mean, like any business, a small percentage can create meaningful value. So just go do it.
Love that. All right, we have just a minute or two left. Any questions for Andy? Oh, lots of hands. Okay, how about right in front? Or do you want a mic? Or?
Thanks so much. Kind of a two-part, maybe growth question. You touched on the local efforts, the LTCs. Can you say where growth is coming from in terms of the audience? Is it coming from focusing on that local level? Is it coming from generally streaming? Is it coming from international, which has been a bigger effort? And how are you bringing brands along with that growth?
Yeah, the answer is yes. What we're seeing is fan growth here in the U.S. It's important to note, I didn't say this before, we are the largest fan base across all key demos in the U.S. And yet at the same time, we are some of the fastest growing. We're seeing our growth be exactly where we want it to be in terms of, we're growing overall, but we're seeing a larger share of growth coming from women, youth, and Latino audiences. We're obviously heavily focused on all three of those. We're also growing incredibly fast internationally, which is a key tenet of our growth. Now that's in fandom. The other way we look at the business is are the existing fans spending more time, energy, money with the NFL? We're growing on that front too. Yeah, we have corporate partners that are our official partners of the NFL. Those are typically multi-year deals, but we're also embarking into new categories. As an example, this year we brought on Accenture as an example, and so I think what you're seeing is the league is being seen not just as a engagement platform for traditional sponsorship and partnership, but also as an innovation arm to say, oh, if we can innovate with them, that's a proof point against our business that also helps the league, and vice versa. That's valuable.
Okay, I think we're almost near the end. Maybe one last question, and then
probably do one
if
more.
Andy has a minute or two after.
Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you, Andy. This was a very information you have given to everybody. Thank you so much. I have a question. Would you incentivizing your fan base to have 100% engagement with your brand for NFL?
Would we incentivize our fan base?
Yes.
I think we incentivize the fan base by having awesome product and awesome games and the drama of the games. So, almost 3/4 of our games enter the fourth quarter with a score differential of 7 points or less. That means every game comes down to the wire. I don't think we would be interested in incentivizing in any monetary way our fans because they're already getting so much from the core product itself, and they're candidly showing us with the viewership numbers.
What if you incentivize monetary and they can buy your subscription for free?
Well, I think that's a different conversation. We should probably take that offline.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
really
guys.
appreciate
Great conversation. Awesome.